Why did that stop there?
So that should be now live. Cool. Let me just check it actually has gone live because you know, these things are like, yeah, cool. It's live everywhere. Brilliant. Okay, well, let me just start. Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Behind the Curtain, episode 5. I'm Aaron, founder of Little Heroes Comics and Fair Spark Books. Today's episode, we're going to be talking to a couple of creators on why would you start a YouTube channel, especially at this bit of time where everyone's unfortunately has to stay at home for the safety of everyone. So make sure you are staying at home and not a silly person on the beach. Public announcement for everyone. But yeah, so I'm joined by two great creators that you definitely should know in the comic world, and if you don't, by the end of this you must go to their stores and buy stuff, and that's just a given. So Mark, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, my name is Mark Jackson. I'm also, you can know me as Mark Makes Comics. I'm a cartoonist from Macclesfield in Cheshire, and yeah, I'm I don't know what else to say. Yeah, do you want me to say about what I've done, or just
tell us about the what your comics you do and stuff? We'll get into the YouTube channels in a minute, but if you just
yeah. So I primarily make all ages comics. I have been self-publishing for pretty much, well, getting on for, this is my 10th year kind of coming back to making comics, and sort of self-publishing probably for probably sort of maybe 8, and then 8 years of that. And then 6 years ago, started to get my first published work in a local newspaper, which then led to me working with Aces Weekly, which is David Lloyd's online comic anthology. And then I did a little bit of work for the Beano, which was quite exciting. So that's always been a good calling card. So that was 6 years ago. And then since then, I've just kind of been working with comic art festivals. I work with the Lakes International Comic Art Festival. I've been working with them for about 5 years, going to schools and libraries, and do workshops like that, which will kind of connect up to what we're going to talk about. And still regularly self-publish and just make comics and do stuff like that, really. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Tom?
So yeah, not too dissimilar really to Mark's story. I'm Tom Spark, aka Captain Fishbeard. There's 2 volumes of the Captain Fishbeard book out. Second one published by First Spark Books, which is a very decent publisher, as Aaron will tell you. But again, been doing it for about 7 or 8 years now. In the comics world, some self-published books and some published works as well. Just recently entered into the video world. But I'm always on the Comic-Con scene. Lots of those was next to Mark at Thought Bubble at the end of last year, and a regular at the London and Birmingham Comic-Cons, and occasionally the other ones too, like Manchester.
Awesome. So obviously both very, very active in the indie comic community and comic community as a whole, which is awesome. I obviously have the pleasure of working with both of you. Obviously, Mark, you're doing a little strip in our little Fair Sparks, The Spark magazine.
Yes.
And in the next issue, you have a whole page.
A whole page as well. It's my slow takeover, really.
Yeah.
My plan is to have the whole issue by at least this time next year. So
Tom's done the same thing. He started off with just 1 page, and now he's got 2. And I'm pretty sure. And he does the letters page stuff. He's getting all over the place. This one.
I think that is the kind of thing you've got to do. And I don't know about you, Tom, but the way I've built up my career in comics is by seeking out things. I don't sort of sit around waiting for them to come along. I kind of it's a whole, and I think as anybody who is self-publishing or is trying to sort of self-publish, you can't just sit around waiting. Self-publishing is a great exercise in discipline for making comics. And whenever I self-publish, I give myself deadlines to work to, because the idea is that you want to do this for your job. And if you want to do it for your job, somebody will come along and go, okay, I want you to do this now as a job that pays, and you've got this amount of time to do it. And if you go, oh, I can't do that, it takes me 4 years to make a comic, then it's not going to work. And so self-publishing is a great way of building up that discipline. Set yourself times for when you want to release it, whether it's tying it in with a comic event and thinking, okay, I want to take it to the Lakes or to Thought Bubble or to wherever you want to go to, and then work backwards and go, okay, well, how long would it take me to do this, and how much time would I need to have it printed, and so that's a deadline there. It's just looking. I do things like not at the moment, obviously, but seeing magazines in shops. Thinking, oh, it looks like quite a cool magazine. Go to the front, see who the editor is, take a picture of it. I don't buy it. I take a picture of it.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, and email that editor when I get back and say, listen, I'm a cartoonist. This is my stuff. Would you be interested in having a comic in there? Make sure you flip through to see if there are any comics, because don't ask them.
Yeah, that's
comic. Would you be if they've got lots of comics already, and just you kind of create stuff really, and also being. What I like to call a pleasant pest.
Yeah, I just had to say yes in the end from all the Twitter messages I was getting daily. I don't know.
But do you know what? Many years ago, I went to Nostalgia in Comics. It was the first time I ever went to a comic shop. It was Nostalgia in Comics in Nottingham. I'm going to really show my age now. This is like in the mid '80s, and it was the first time I'd been to a comic shop. And and this is the days obviously before the internet. I had read in one of the Marvel UK comics, whether it be Transformers or, in fact, actually, not about 3 months ago, I actually found the copy of Transformers that had the advert in that I thought, that's what I will have seen. So it was an advert in the comic that said that the editor of Marvel UK was going to be at Nostalgia in Comics with Spider-Man. And so I thought, yeah, it was just a way of going and getting, and so I, as a 12-year-old, I took my little comics that I would make in to show this editor. And to be honest, he was a little bit kind of like, whatever kind of thing. He wasn't half as encouraging as the people I've made in comics over the past 10 years. And those people are incredibly encouraging. Every now and then you'll meet somebody who, isn't rude to you, but you can tell, just to sort of leave all alone. But for most people, they'll give you their time, and it's really cool. And so he was a little bit kind of like, but and Spider-Man was there, and that was cool. It is that was my first sort of time. But he told me this story that Alan Davis, I don't know if you know the comic artist Alan Davis, he did Captain Britain and all these kind of things, and since then he's worked for Marvel, the main Marvel and stuff like that. And he said that Alan Davis's work is fantastic, but he said he gave him a job because he just didn't stop sending stuff to him. This is like the old days, so it was literally going by post. It wasn't going by email, so he was posting samples out. And in the end, he just thought, well, I can't not keep giving this, not give this guy work. And so it's persistence.
Nice.
And I talk, somebody else talk.
I agree with that wholly, Mark. It's what I found is you just chase down every avenue, every little opening, every person that you meet, every little contact that you have. Chase it up, make sure they've got your details, and just ask people time and time again. I think that's a really, really good lesson to learn. Actually,
they can only say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if they say no, you then wait a couple of weeks, and then you ask them again.
How do you say no? I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think people only say no, or politely say no, if they don't see anything what you're doing.
Right.
So I think if you're putting yourself out there, when I first approached David Lloyd at HC's Weekly when it had first started, and I was kind of in a weird kind of grey area with trying to get back into doing them, but not. I've been out and I was never in practice with it when I was doing comics when I was younger. But and I think if I'd built on that and had somebody going, right, keep going, then I would have had an ability to put a comic together quite well. I'll look back at some of my older stuff when I was sort of like, I don't know, sort of 17, and I could see a little bit of, okay, I'm going in the right place here, and then somehow it just kind of, I went away from that and got distracted by other things. So I kind of came back and had to sort of relearn it all again, kind of thing, and pick up where I left off. And then, because it's just confidence. It's not at times it's not really about skill. It's about confidence to go, I know I can do this, and I can start a comic and know how to structure it and end it and bring it all together, and sequential storytelling, and know what, when to zoom in, when to pull back, what to show, and all this kind of thing. And David Lloyd said to me, he said, I think what you're showing me isn't good enough. And I did. I was kind of looking for him to say that to me, but I was looking for some guidance, I suppose. So I went off and then carried on going and thought, I didn't go off and go, well, what does he know? Because he knew a lot and still does. And I listened to that and then went off and carried on doing stuff and slowly built it up and did more and more. What I realized was to do more comics, to do a variety of characters rather than just try to do one thing. And then when I went back to him armed with all these comics that I'd done, he could see that I'd listened, and
Right.
you know, because if you got to do, you know, it's all constructive criticism. Unless somebody's just been really, really unpleasant, you've got to listen to if somebody goes, you know, because you don't want.
Yeah, it might end up being you not getting a job or getting a job. So sometimes just listening is worth and coming back.
Yeah, it's nice if people go, this is good, but you kind of, if you want to do this as your job, you don't just want people to go, you know, like, you know, your friends and family will go, this is great, but it's kind of not who you need to be saying it. You need the editors, the people who make the comics, the people who've been doing it since, you know, you were following them, you know, whether it be in the 80s or the 90s, whatever age you are. Those are the people that you need to be giving you the feedback, really. So
yeah, I think with yours, with your work, what I've seen, because I was a fan of Mark's before I'd even met him or known him as a person. Just really loved the lively, energetic style of the comics, and you can see the love that's in the drawings. You can see that all the expression and the color and stuff. It's a real joy to that. I think there's a lot of times you can see a lot of things that are structurally very good but don't have much soul within them.
Yeah.
Your work is just completely full of life. I think, you know, as long as you need to keep hold of that and harness that and use that, well, whilst keeping, as you say, all the technical elements and the structure around it, to make things, you know, have that right sort of balance.
I think it's funny because once you learn all that, and then you've got your confidence to go, you know, if somebody comes to me and goes, Mark, can you do me a comic? It's a one-page comic. I need you to come up with an idea, and you can confidently go, yeah, I can do that, and I can deliver it within this time frame. Once you get to that point, then you can start having fun with it and doing comics in different kinds of ways, because you've got that kind of bit in the background, knowing that you know what you're doing, and then you can start playing around with it as well. I think you start playing around with it at the start without having that learning the basics.
Yeah.
You need the basics.
Definitely. I look back on some of my old stuff and going, there's some raw stuff in there, and there's some good stuff in there, but it's not delivered well enough, and the story isn't strong enough to hang those good jokes on, so it just falls to pieces a little bit.
Yeah, because especially, especially as you know, Tom, when you're dealing with funny stuff, there's a whole other element to it as well, that it needs to be funny.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and tell the story and look good and be structured well, and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of elements to it. Yeah,
because you can kind of sit there thinking, is this just me that thinks this is funny?
Yeah. It's definitely an element of that with my stuff.
Yeah. Am I not getting this? But also, somebody once said, I read, they said that it doesn't necessarily, even if like you're doing a 4-panel strip, it doesn't have to be a setup like a typical gag at the end. It can just be a funny situation.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of an unlock for me. I was like, all right, yeah, okay, because trying to come up with gags in a 4-panel strip all the time is tough.
It is. It's not much time to tell a story, is it, or set something up?
No. So I think if you pull away and do a little bit of less is more, then you suddenly, rather than trying to be clever, that would be my other advice. Don't try and be clever. Just keep it simple, because if you're trying to make it clever, you're going to get yourself in a right old mess.
We'll have to. I'll have to create another episode at some point that goes into a deep dive on how to do comedy in comics, because it's something I really want to know, because I don't do well at that at all. But then you've got people like you guys and like Alan Henderson, who does Penguin and stuff, that just somehow every day manage to make something that just makes you smile. So definitely want to delve into that at some point in the future, if you guys would love to do that.
Yeah.
But bringing it back around to your YouTube channels, and so I think the first thing I want to ask is, what made you decide to want to do your YouTube channel? I guess is the biggest question, because obviously I started my YouTube channel as a way to bring people into the story of how it is to run a small publishing house and a charity at the same time, and what's involved around that, and then that has blossomed into these other little things like this. So what was it that made you guys want to start your own YouTube channels?
Well, no, on Twitter, actually, I spoke to you, Mark, when we both were thinking about the same ideas. I think we probably had the same sort of seed to germinate. Would that be right for you?
Yeah, no, I'd had, so like, I think America are about, what are they, about 2 weeks ahead of us in terms of the lockdown?
Seems about that, I think.
Yeah, and a cartoonist that I met last year in America, called Joe he does a lot of workshops, travels all over the States, and you know, whether it be at comic events and or just generally going into, you know, schools and what have you, which kind of, you know, as I sort of watch him on Facebook, I think, oh yeah, he's busy, you know, he does a lot of stuff like I do, and he set up a YouTube channel called Maze Tunes. Well, he goes by the moniker of Maze Tunes, and I think his YouTube is How to Tune. And so I was kind of watching that thinking, right, you know, knowing that we were heading towards this lockdown, thinking, right, well, you know, maybe this is something I should do. And I'd thought about it a while ago, but thought, I haven't got time to do that. and then, I don't know about you, Tom, but for me, it came from, because I do a lot of stuff in schools and a lot of, you know, regular comic drawing classes and stuff like that, and suddenly saw basically 6 months worth of work just stop. And you know, and also as you're heading into the nicer months, you know, the spring and the summer months, festivals and the holidays, I you know, do a lot of stuff again, and so knowing roughly from what I did last year, what I might have been approached other stuff and thinking, oh, I might end up doing that again this year, and that just literally, you know, the non-existent, and thought, well, I need to do something, and try to think about, well, how could I transfer what I do that's paying online? But that was a bit of a tricky thing, and I think sometimes if you go straight in with a paywall kind of thing, is the easiest way for it to not really work. Yeah. I know a lot of people, a lot of teachers who, you know, like music teachers and stuff like that, they might have a system where that they're already in a pay scheme with their students where they do like block bookings. You know, like they're booking for six sessions at a time. So it was easier for them to sort of switch to like a Zoom thing because they'd already got them locked in. They were already paying. Yeah. Whereas I tend to do session by session, and so there were no block bookings for me. so it wasn't like I had a set of children who I could bring with me. Yeah. It was, you know, it was like starting from scratch again. And so I think I remember saying on Twitter, and you said the same thing. I said, you know, I'm thinking of starting a YouTube, or I'm going to start that. And you said, yeah, I'm doing that, or I was thinking of doing the same thing. Yeah. Just a case of doing it. And yeah. It was when my kids were, you know, we got the call that, you know, first one of the kids is, you know, you don't come into school, and then the next, you know, they're doing it in different years, and then the next one was, yeah, you're going to be at home as well now. And so looking into this and going, oh gosh, right, so the kids are going to be at home for long term. Okay, this is happening across the country at the moment, if not the world, and everybody seemed to be doing something. Everyone was, you know, making masks, making PPE equipment, you know, helping out by doing, you know, setting up rounds around the village and picking things up. I was like, well, everyone's got the skills here, organisational or using their time or various talents or, you know, their professional skills. I thought, what can I do? I need something to contribute somehow. I thought, right, well, I can keep kids entertained. Like you, Mark, I've done a couple of school visits and stuff, not clearly as much as you have, but a few bits and pieces. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, I can definitely contribute something to keep kids entertained for a bit. If I can show them something that they can do and then do with their brothers and sisters or with their parents or, you know, even on their own, it'll keep them entertained for a bit. So started doing that a bit, and then, just did a few of those. And then the feedback was, yeah, this is, you know, I got messages on Twitter saying, this is keeping my kid entertained for an hour or 2 hours. And, you know, they've done 8 of these now, and it's great. So it's really felt like it was working. So it's very rewarding in that respect. No, I mean, I was. It is, and that's what I get from when I do the workshops. That feedback is fantastic, and that's the one thing that initially I really missed. I missed the direct interaction, and again, it was like being suddenly, I don't know about you guys, but it's suddenly like rethinking my entire model within the space of a few days. I thought this needs to be set up soon. I can't just sort of go, well, let's just get into lockdown and I'll figure it out. So it was all in place before the Friday when both my girls had to, their school closed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a case of just, well, what do we do? So it was just winging it. So I thought, right, well, I'll set this up, I'll brand it all up and say that I'm doing it. And then I was very fortunate that, again, my connection with the Lakes Comic Art Festival, Julie Tate, the wonderful Julie Tate. I don't know if you guys have ever met Julie or have any dealings with Julie, but she's just fantastic. And she's been really great for me in terms of supporting me. I got Arts Council funding through the Lakes Festival and all these fantastic things. And she stepped up and said, we'd like to support you, get you started, and so it just gave me that little bit of a support. So I'm connected. So I don't know if you've seen the show, I always start with thanking them for their support and the logos on the thing, and it just kind of helped validate it a little bit for me and make me feel like that I wasn't just a guy trying to do something that maybe no one was even going to be interested in. Just nice to have that little bit of no, go on, like a little bit of a push, going, go on.
Fantastic.
But then also there's a bit of pressure then as well. So cut to my first show, which was basically a technical disaster, because what I didn't realise, again, and it was just kind of, because I've never done anything like this before, what I didn't realise was that you're probably best when you go in and, because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, do you do live shows or are you doing the pre-recorded ones?
Not yet. No, I haven't. I've done one live one with Aaron last weekend, but that's the only one I've done so far.
Right. So I went in blindly thinking, and I think this was based off of what my friend Joe, who I mentioned before, he was doing live ones. It was the kind of thing where I wanted, and I think when you hear that somebody's doing something, I always make sure I go. So I say to them, just to let you know, I'm doing this, but I don't want you to think I'm copying you. And so I said a similar thing to Joe, and I said, Joe, I want to let you know I'm doing this. I didn't want to suddenly go, I'm doing this, and him go, But he's an intelligent guy. He knows that he's not the only person doing a YouTube show. But you still feel the need to say these things, don't you?
Yeah.
But I knew that, as we know as cartoonists, we're all totally different anyway. So there's no one encroaching on anyone's territory because we all think totally different. So even if we're all trying to do the exact same thing, it's going to be totally different anyway.
Yeah.
And I knew that Joe, he does a lot of over camera kind of stuff. So it's very much focusing on the drawing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I wasn't really quite sure how I was going to do it. I just knew I was going to do it. And then I saw yours, Tom, and yours is a similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I saw how you done your first one, and I panicked because yours looked very professional.
Thank you for saying so.
And I thought, and I didn't have the brain capacity, and at that point, particularly because it was like suddenly, vroom, what is going on in the world, to do anything other than probably what I could just do.
Yeah.
Which is how I kind of do when I do my workshops. I don't go in with any plan. I just kind of do it. And so when I did the first one, I didn't realise when you go live that you're probably best not having every other device in the house pulling from your Wi-Fi at the same time. Because what will happen a little bit halfway into the show is that suddenly you'll get a little message in the corner in red saying, rebuffering. Yeah. And you'll think, oh, yeah, that's all right. Carry on. I'm a professional. Know that that's doing that, but don't think it's a problem. And then see the door in your office just kind of open, and when your wife going, it keeps freezing. And then the comment section, it's freezing, and then you think, oh no. And it literally, it all went a bit wrong. But then I learned, and then literally I came back on the Friday, like 2 days later, everything was off. And so I kind of see that as my first show.
There was one of these episodes that I was doing, I think it might have been the last one, which is probably why I stopped doing them for a while. is it just went wrong. Nothing for some reason that day, because I used to live stream them through Google Hangouts,
Right.
And then for some reason Google Hangouts wouldn't connect to YouTube, and everyone that was in the Google Hangouts, half could hear the other people, but the other half couldn't hear the other half, and I was like crying, and I was like, it wasn't going live, and I was in the chat going, sorry guys, I know it's been 15 minutes, please hang on. Like, we eventually managed to go live, but I had to do it in the most awkward way possible to get it like streaming to this, to that, and then connected to that, and oh, it was horrible. But yeah, I think always do a trial run. I think is always a good
Yeah, you're not making.
I just didn't think about that. I just thought, well, my trial run was I suppose doing it, and then and just learn quickly again, and the same way as suddenly learning how to do this in general. You know, like, okay, now I'm doing this. How does this work? And so that's how I've done it. And you know, so I do two a week live, and then I upload some little demos as well. So again, the first one I did. My wife, so I hadn't got any way of, you know, holding the phone to film me. So my wife, I was at the kitchen bench, and my wife was stood on the bench next to me, hanging over me, filming me.
Such a good wife. That's brilliant.
She's been amazing. My wife Jane, and just then, you know, the battery running out, or. And I think I drew this same robot, which, to be honest, I've drawn this robot so many times in general. I do a thing called How to Draw a Robot Without Looking, and it's pretty much, you know, the same setup. And I drew this thing 5 times, and then it was like everything. She was like, oh, so I'd be like going, and I'd be halfway through, and then Jen would go, oh, I was like, oh, what? She's like, it's gone off. I was like, oh. And her back was aching because she was leaning over me. So she said, right, we need to order you something. So we ordered a little stand, you know, the thing that you can attach. And so then suddenly it's like, why have we never always had this? You know, but I never needed it for.
It's an absolute godsend, this thing. It's just, I don't know if you can see it probably on the background, but yeah, that's the clip on a
right, yeah. Well, my other thing is with the phone, that suddenly when you go from landscape that way to then landscape flat, the orientation lock forgets that, and suddenly it's not filming it so it's on its side as opposed to wide, and it's like, what is going on? So for every video that I've done, I've probably done about 4 others. You know, every drawing I've done, there's been 4 others, and for the past good few of them, either one of my daughters or both of them have been sat next to me doing it along with me.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Just to give them something to do.
That's great.
And then bless them, I went, oh, we're gonna have to do this again. So poor Florence and Nancy have been drawing a dog going to work. Like, we really got to do this again. I was like. Yes. You don't have to, but I've got to do it again.
If you want your sweets later.
But it's just, and so it's all those things. So there's so much goes into it that people don't realise. But it's a lot of fun, and so going back to what I said about yours, Tom, you know, it looked very slick, and I thought, well, I need to go in with an angle of chaos. So again, if you've not seen my live show, I kind of wanted it to kind of be kind of like that 80s TV that I kind of grew up with. So it's like in the broom cupboard. So this is my setup, and I have the flip chart behind me. And so on a Friday, I do a challenge, like a freestyle Friday, where in the comments section they challenge me what to draw, and I draw what they say. And then while they're doing that, I throw back at them, okay, well, I'm drawing this, I want you to draw this.
Okay.
And then I take calls.
That's lovely. I like that idea.
I take calls on my phone. Celebrities. So Joan Collins has rung. Mike Tyson rang in last week.
Wow, fantastic.
So we're getting big names.
You'll have to get Captain Fishbeard to knock up and give you a phone call one day. Get a crossover.
The line is open. Basically, that's all I'm saying. and so I thought that's how I'm going to do it, just a bit of chaos. And then on the Wednesday I kind of do a little bit of a demo, have a bit of a theme, so maybe talking about speech bubbles and thought bubbles and how they work in comics. So do that for, so I do about 45 minutes ish, and then I go and have a lie down. Well, I don't actually.
Got to edit it and then upload it.
I kind of come out of my fun cupboard, as my wife Jane calls it.
So you kind of went into one of my future questions there, cause, but that was really, really fascinating, because the thing I was going to ask next then was basically what content are you providing on your site at the moment, and how are you getting those ideas? So for obviously, I know that Tom is doing specific like game type things each video. So where are you guys drawing your inspiration from to create your videos?
I'm just trying to think what drawing games I've enjoyed, trying to get drawing games from other people that they've enjoyed. I recorded last night my very first one with a guest on who had a game, a guy called Ed Stockham, who works for the Beano actually. I happened to meet him a few years back, and he's been doing games on Instagram, drawing games. So I invited him on and said, come on, do a video with me. So we did one last night. So that was really, really fun. But that's obviously his idea, bringing it in. But I thought it was really nice because it was his game, to bring him in and have him as the guest for us to play it together. So that brought a new sort of dynamic to it, which is really, really nice. But yeah, because there's only so many drawing games that I know and that I can play and that will work. I can sort of tell people how to play. But what we can also do is, like you and I did, Aaron, take those games, play them together on screen. It gives it another dimension. Then I think it shows people that you can play them as well as on your own with friends as well, but be you in the same room or virtually. So there's showing lots of different those sort of value angles to those sort of games as well. So getting a bit more, I suppose, content out of the same sort of idea, if you like. And then there's a few tutorials of mine mixed in there as well, so there's a bit of a mix of different content. So if you do want to draw along or learn how to draw Captain Fishbeard, which is one of my videos, then that's cool too. So I'm trying to mix it up a little bit with different stuff. I think I'll probably have some more sort of live game playing stuff in the future as well. Mark, how about you?
Yeah, no, my demos basically, I do like, each demo is how to draw. So it's let's draw a robot. Let's draw. I think it was a monster. Let's draw a dog going to work. Let's draw a cool spaceship. So like the average is about sort of like 7 minutes, and I basically take them through the process of building up from shapes and then drawing this shape first, and then and so it's kind of step by step that they can watch along, or they can pause it and that kind of thing, and then I encourage them then to show me their version of what they've done and how they've then taken that and then maybe mention little things at the time as I'm saying it. Maybe you could do this, maybe you could add this to it, and so that's that side of it. And then in terms of the live show, like I say, the Friday kind of writes itself, because that's just sort of kind of seat of your pants kind of craziness,
right.
Go with the comments, which is again an extension of what I do particularly at my, well, for most of them really now, but my actual physical workshops. At the end of the session, I then go, right, let's have a quick round as you guys are doing this. Let's have a quick round of challenge Mark, and then they shout out things they want me to draw. Okay. So that was that. And then the Wednesday one, I kind of try and sort of introduce some comics things in terms of, okay, this. So like this week I did, if you can see it on here, where is it? Where's it going? Hang on. Yeah. This week here was, if you can see, was we drew a character. So I showed them how to draw a character first, this particular character they could follow along, and then I called it making a scene, and then I basically showed them how to put that character into a scene. So we did the character first. So we've got our character that was stood up, and now I'm showing them, okay, this character's now sat down, they're on a chair, and now they've got a little table next to them with a drink on it, and now they've got a lamp, a standard lamp next to them, and then I showed them how suddenly you can, from just drawing these things, just by I do a few little lines below them, suddenly now it looks like they're actually flat on the ground as opposed to just hovering. And then the window, and then the window's got 4 panels. Those 4 panels could almost be like a comic strip, and then basically building up a scene. So it was taking a character and putting them in a place, with the walls and a little mouse hole, but instead of a mouse, little creatures coming out of it, and so things like that, or talking to them about speech bubbles and how positioning of speech bubbles in comic panels and where they should be and where they shouldn't be, but where they can be if you want to try and break the rules and stuff like that, and just trying to come up each week with, and for the most part each week I know what I'm doing the next one. Then every now and then I think, I'm running out of ideas. Because you can't be expected to constantly have all the ideas. Yeah. But your brain as a creator thinks you are letting people down if you haven't, because you think, well, surely I should have all the ideas. There's no harm in not having all the ideas.
I think what's really good for you two is that the fact that your videos are aimed at the younger audience, and if there's one group of people that have an abundance of imagination and can give you constant ideas, you only have to say something to them and you get a million ideas. So
it's magic. Yeah.
And totally random things, and that's what I love about it, and that's how I kind of think about when I'm doing my comics, because I think, well, you're trying to appeal to kids who aren't really, they're not all about the story structure. They just want things to be making them laugh or entertain them. And so, as long as you're, using good grammar and not spelling mistakes and all that in your stuff, you can play around with storytelling and the same way you can with your workshops and your demos. I tend to come from the angle of just trying to entertain and make him thinking, well, that's quite funny to say that. So the character I did for the Beano 6 years ago, the first thing I did was a character called Lenny the Lettuce, who's basically a talking lettuce kind of guy, the sort. And so I showed them how to draw Lenny the Lettuce on Easter Sunday, and I built that up by saying that most people think that the eggs are the food of Easter, but it's actually lettuce is the food of Easter. so just basically just talking nonsense.
It's great though. Yeah.
But that's what children like. Yeah. They've heard about eggs till the cows come home, but you tell them that lettuce, and actually then have a lettuce next to you as you're drawing it. I like to think that they love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And on your board behind you, are you allowed to draw below the fish?
Nothing below the fish.
Nothing below the fish.
Did you know that, or are you asking me that?
I did know that.
Yeah. So what? And I realised this in the first couple of shows, that there was only a certain point on my screen. So this is pushed back a little bit, but it's usually a bit closer because this is wobbling. So I had to put in a line to know where not to draw, so they could see. And then I just randomly drew a fish and said, nothing below the fish. So that's become like a catchphrase.
Nice.
Well, of course you know that, because you saw the T-shirt, didn't you, today?
That's it.
You've made it a T-shirt, have you?
Well, fingers crossed.
Hold on. How do I order this?
I've got to have five orders in order for it to actually become a reality. So
it is very cool. I like the look of it.
Make sure you send us a link, and I'll add one more to that.
I'll send you a link. But yeah, so it's just random stuff, because my wife said, well, will people really get that? I said, well, it's just kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's not only that. It's like people who know your channel and your show will know it, and that's the important, and that's the bit that will sell it. Because so
it's be the envy of your friends. Be the person that knows what that means.
Yeah.
Don't be the other guy who's
Don't
like
be the other guy.
That's it, in the know,
My nan works in a secondary school as a cleaner. She's been there for like ever, but she's like one of the full-time ones, the ones that are always walking around the school. And growing up, if you wanted to know what something meant, you asked my nan, because she would always know. no matter what the new slang was, even if it has only been a week or something, my nan would have known what it meant. So it was really weird. But yeah. No, yeah.
That's a good comic in itself about the nan who goes around the school and knows everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. Go to nan. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
So,
Quick, make a comic.
yeah. So, Mark, specifically you, because I know that Tom's just venturing into this part, but are you preferring the live streams to your static, sort of recorded videos, or yeah?
I don't know really. I like. Yeah, I like doing the live ones. It's just, do you know why I like those probably a little bit more? I enjoy doing the demos because it's just nice to do, and you do them and you think, okay, well, I've done that now. I've put a bit of content on there. It's kind of pressures off a little bit.
Yeah.
Then I like the live ones because it's still a way of, I suppose, of just connecting. And just out of the house and knowing that there's, you know, and so when people just pop something in the comments, you know, that I've really enjoyed this, or send me a message afterwards, and then I use this thing called Ko-fi, which is kind of like buy me a coffee kind of thing, but it's called Ko-fi. And if people enjoy it and maybe want to just drop me a little something, and so suddenly you get a little message in the corner saying somebody supported you, and you get a rough idea of, well, I know I've done this today, so it's probably because of that. That it's just a nice feeling, and I think the live shows get that kind of reward, and the connection, because I miss that. I miss the connection with the children, and so even though I can't see them, I'm pretending that I can. You know, I can hear them, what they're saying and stuff like that. But off the back of that, I've started doing Zoom parties.
Nice.
So they are. I do get to see, you know, the children, and so that's turned what I'm doing on YouTube, which, you know, there's not a huge revenue stream coming from the YouTube thing.
Yeah.
As much as you go at the end. And I hold up my sign, and I hold it up there that little bit longer. Feel free to, you know, to support me on Ko-fi. And then you look at how many people have watched you live, and you think, wow, imagine if everybody just bought me one coffee for £3. All those people
flying up there, Mark, on your follow account. You know, you're 7% already.
No, subscribers are doing really well. Yeah, no, I'm really pleased with that. But I find it quite interesting because. So I've got, like, you know, it's like nearly 700 subscribers, and then I get a good amount of views. But then I noticed on one of yours, Tom, you got, was it 3.8 thousand views?
That was the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's
that went in all sorts of different places. I think it got retweeted and linked to various things. So yeah, none of the other ones have anywhere near that.
No, but I thought that was. But I think that says a lot about the way that online works, and how also it's easy to get hung up on these things, but you shouldn't do. Because I noticed that you were saying, I'm just trying, because you got past 100 now, didn't you, this week?
Yeah, about 115 now, I think. Yeah.
And I think the internet is a cruel thing, because you've had 3.8 thousand views.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised that you hadn't got to 100 subscribers.
Not many subs.
Understand
on that? It just doesn't translate somehow on that. I don't understand either.
And I'm heading to like 700 subscribers, but I've not had 3.8 thousand views for one of mine yet. You know, and it's like with the likes, isn't it, on Instagram, and you haven't got to get caught up in that too much. You've got to, but it is hard because you give it your all.
That is it.
And it's not an ego thing.
No, but it is emotional. It's
and you the last thing you want is no one to be watching. I did it a couple of weeks ago, and for whatever reason, because like when you start the live one, once you've not started it, but you've kind of put the title in there, and you're basically ready, and there's like a little bit of a waiting room, and it tells you how many people are waiting. So I think, okay, so I start at 2:00. So I think, you know, most weeks it was like, okay, I've got 11 people watching. Let's, you know, we can start. And then week before last, I had nobody watching. I was like, right. And I thought, well, I can't wait. I've got to start, and I've got to act as though I don't come on going, is anybody here? I've got to come on going, hi. And it must have been a glitch because there were people waiting, but it didn't show me that until. But you can think, oh no.
So there's a thing though that like YouTube does it and Twitch definitely does it. Is you can do what's like called lurking essentially, where you can be in there without actually showing that you're in there. So
Right, okay.
There are things doing that. Like if you open up your, I've got a thing here, and it doesn't look like you got a lot of viewers, which you don't. Well, we don't at the moment. But then yesterday, like the other day, it said like I had 10 people, but in the lurkers there was like 30. So you're like, oh, that's crazy. But I know exactly what you mean in that terms of like the view count number system not relating, because I know that there's a video I done a long time ago at the beginning of this about like how to put your comic on Amazon Kindle, like how the process of doing it. So a little tutorial, and that's had 5,000 views at the moment. Wow. And I'm still just 150 subscribers. So there's like there's never. I don't think you ever really are gonna have your views hitting the same as your subscribers.
No, my wife Jane, she works tirelessly promoting it on Facebook. There's lots of like groups for mums and parents who. And she's posting links to and again, because I'm going live, that's quite a handy thing because I've got that regularity.
Yeah.
And so people know to look for it, look forward to it, and I know that that's quite a nice thing, having these things that you. When the lockdown first came, we ended up watching. So the American chat show host Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
I really like Jimmy Fallon, and we watched some stuff on YouTube, some of his interviews and stuff like that. But he started doing his show from home,
right?
With his wife, wife filming it. His children were there, and it was this like sort of anywhere between 15 and I think the longest block one was 45 minutes, and it was our little lifeline every night of when we were just totally dazed, and anything we usually watched, we just didn't want to watch.
Yeah.
It just nothing that we were, the shows that we were enjoying, like Better Call Saul. I love Better Call Saul. It was just like I just don't want to watch that at the moment. We just felt quite low with everything, to be honest. And that show, the Jimmy Fallon thing, just really kind of. It was like our little lifeline, and it kind of got us through the first week, knowing that Jimmy was going to be there every night for us.
That's great, yeah.
And it's that kind of thing, and I took a lot from that show because Jane said to me, she said, he's just doing it. Don't think there's any pressure to this. Yeah. People are just glad you're doing something, so it's not going to be slick, and his children are there in the background, and it's a bit chaotic. And his isn't live, so it's edited together a little bit. But my girls come in on a Friday and do little suggestions of what they want live drawing, and the pressure of not worrying about whether real life is going on in the background. People don't mind; they're just happy that something's going on that they can watch or that might entertain their children.
Fantastic. There's definitely an energy to a live one as well. Yours have got a real unique energy to it, because I think that the interaction, even watching a later on recording of a live thing, it's definitely got a different energy to it. It's a really nice energy as well. I think that's, like I say, it might be some sort of replacement for human contact in these times.
I think that's what it is for me, and it's probably why I sort of waffle on a bit as well while I'm doing it, because I think that comes from working for yourself, working from home, and missing that contact. Whether I don't know about you guys, but I do the school run and stuff like that, and suddenly none of us is. Even when you go to the supermarket, it's not the way it used to be, where you might run into somebody The last thing you want to do is run into somebody
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't want to feel like because you think, well, I want to talk to you, but I need to keep away from you.
Yeah.
You kind of want to go there and not know anybody, just keep your head down and get in there and get out, kind of thing. Yeah. So all these things have been taken away from us, and I think for me, definitely, that's one of the reasons for doing it is to just do something and do it like you said, Tom. Well, what can I do? I think, well, this is what I do. I'll just put this online, but it's a good thing to do, and I don't see this for me as something I'm going to stop doing.
Oh, that's
Obviously,
good.
when things change, I'm going to carry on doing it and use it as of what I've built up.
Yeah.
And carry it on, and maybe not as regularly, or maybe I'll do it on a Saturday. I might do a little live thing on a Saturday. I'm not sure. But don't walk away from it. Think, okay, this is something now I've had chance to do that I probably wouldn't have done before. Again, we said it before at the start, wouldn't have thought I had time to do that. Well, now I've got time to do a YouTube channel, because it can feel a little bit. I said this before, egotistical. Oh, I've got a YouTube show,
Yeah.
How old are you, Mark? Well, I'm in my late 40s, and you've got a YouTube show. It's like, teeny boppers, they have YouTube shows, don't they?
No, they're not on. No one's on YouTube no more. They're on TikTok now. So you're safe.
It's all short form.
You've got to remember that when people our age hit a social media platform of any type, that normally means that the other people have left.
Right.
That's true.
I'm definitely using this as a platform for doing Strictly.
Right, got
perfect, yeah.
So that's how I see it.
You've got my vote. Yeah.
Whether it's going to be this Christmas or the next year, I'll be on Strictly. That's how I see it.
So
you
need a Strictly series where it's all YouTube comic celebrities.
It's all cartoons. So Tom will be there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good year, I think.
Top, the best, I think.
So, have you found that your YouTube videos are helping in the outside exposure and sales to your work, or is it just at the moment, or is it still too early, do you think, to know that?
For me, that certainly hasn't translated. No, I don't think I've sold a thing since I started doing mine. But it's to be honest, the subscriptions and the rolling thing that's enough reward for me at the moment to see those numbers go up and see people's comments and photos and stuff of their work and stuff. That's really that's a very more than enough reward at the moment for what it is. And like I say, I'll keep doing it as long as people keep enjoying it. Mark, have you?
I feel really bad because I have.
So basically, you two need to catch up after this, and Mark, you need to tell Tom what he's doing wrong. And
to be honest, when this all happened, I thought this is how am I going to sell stuff now? But again, at the end of my physical workshops, not the ones in schools, but the ones in libraries, or I do them in. There's a great food hall that opened here in Macclesfield, so I connected up with them. So I do like an after school thing there, and after I do my workshops, I have my little setup with my comics, like you do at the comic shows and whatever. Yeah. And you've got a captive audience, and you've just drawn for an hour with their children, and they all want to buy something. Or not always, but on a good session, in like 10 minutes, I'm like, wow, make more than I've done at some comic events, to be honest. And I've been there all day. And so it was, and I thought, well, how's those sales are just going to go? I get, a decent stream of sales just from promoting stuff online, and whether I do like an article about what new comic I've got, I get reviews and I post those. So I'll get sales that way. But that was a huge, again, so it wasn't just losing the money from what I got paid to do these sessions. It was also the other additional revenue of what I made afterwards from the sales. And even going into schools, then the schools would share that I'd been in, and then you get sales off the back of that, stuff like that. So that was, again, just all disappearing. So I thought, how am I going to be selling stuff? And then, but slowly but surely, so I do a monthly market here in Macclesfield, and that the week after the lockdown would have been the March market, and as everyone knew it was going to do, it got cancelled. But then they decided to do a virtual one, but I took it a little bit further and set up my table in the kitchen, set up my whole table.
Yes, yeah.
And then did a little live stream on Instagram, and just talking everybody through my comics.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great.
Did you do it right?
Yeah.
And I think I remember you popping up actually. I think you said something, and off the back of that, I had a really good day in terms of sales, and so I think it just kind of, and so I again with the live shows. I talk about my comics, so I bring my comics in, into the conversation and draw characters of mine, and then so sales have kind of each week I'm doing all right, with sales, and then when I do the Zoom parties, one part of the cost of those, the child whose birthday is gets a comic as part of the price. Then you'll get a random one, which I did this week, which was amazing. A lady who wanted to buy a comic for every one of the children who was going to be coming to the party.
Wow.
Which was like 23 comics. It was like, oh my God, but that doesn't happen all the time. But it's quite nice when it does.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have, and it could have quite easily gone the other way where I'd not sold anything, because that's how I thought it was going to go. Because as you know, with self-publishing, and you just don't know.
Yeah, 100%. So have you? So I'm just being cautious of the time because we've just gone over an hour. So just I'll do one more question, and this one's from David Robertson on Twitter. So, has doing YouTube videos spurred you on to create more comics, or has it taken time away from doing comics? I guess both of you. Yeah.
Tom?
It's unfortunately the latter. I'm hoping that's David Robertson of the is it That Comic Smell podcast potentially. Anyway, either way, I think it has taken away a little bit of time actually. There is only so much. I've got like Mark, I've got 2 little girls. I'm working from home, and there's a lot to do. And when I'm doing a video for a day, that is probably time in the evenings or at the weekends where I would be drawing comics. So unfortunately, it has made the progress on the Misadventures of Spring Heeled Jack issue 2. That has halted a bit, but it's just a different thing, and obviously for me, for my sort of leisure time, it does it splits things up a little bit. So I'm doing something different rather than just working on the comic. There's another creative outlet there. So though it has slowed that down, it's not necessarily a negative. It's there is positive aspects to it too.
Okay.
You're gonna hate me now, Tom.
Mark's like, I've just increased productivity by 100-fold.
Do you know? So again, but everything's got a reason for it, and the reason for mine was that. So I have 3, two monthly comic strips that I do for publishers, and one of those is published somewhere else as well. So one of them is published in the Brooklyn Red Hook Star Review, which is a community paper in Brooklyn and New York.
Oh, wow.
And that one I also have appears in a local magazine here in Macclesfield. So I resell it back to them. But the main money comes from the American publisher. And then I also do a 1-page comic strip in a Comic Scene magazine called Wacko Man, which I've been doing since it started. So it was like a year and a half, I think, Comic Scene's been going. And I was, as we were heading into the lockdown, I was just at the time, it's towards the end of each month when I do the Wacko Man one first, and then the week after I do the Hot Dog and Mustard comic for the newspaper. And so I got those in the bank, and then I said to Tony at Comic Scene, how are we looking for next month? What do you want me to do? Because usually I submit one, and then I just then take it as a given, unless he's told me otherwise, that we're doing the next month. But I just felt, obviously, the need just to ask. And he said, just hold off on it for a minute. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so many other things were going on. Didn't really think about that too much, when suddenly you think, okay, but even though, I don't survive off just those 2 comic strips, it's still part of regular money that comes in, because that's what you need, the regular stuff. And I've just done the 2 things for the Spark, or the Goons of the Galaxy one as well, which, I was really pleased to get a chance to do those. So thank you. So I thought, okay, the Wacko Man one's kind of gone, and then I got a bit of a sense that it might not be coming back for quite a while. So you're thinking, and suddenly I'm like, oh well, I've not got any comics. The New York one was a little bit up in the air, but that seems to be okay for the time being. So I just done another one now this week, and just thinking, well, I need to keep doing. I can't stop making comics. There's other stuff going on. I've got some commissions to fill in the gaps and stuff like that in terms of money wise. And so this one, the Spook Kids one, which was supposed to be a series which I launched at Thought Bubble when I was sat next to the lovely Tom last November. So that's a 4-issue series that was my plan was that it was going to be done for the 4 issues were going to be all done by the time I got to Thought Bubble this year. And I'd had the collection, but I just couldn't focus on doing. I've written both the 2nd and 3rd issue, but I just couldn't focus on doing a comic, a full comic. I thought I need to do more strip stuff. So much to my kind of insanity, I decided to do a weekly webcomic, obviously, and for the most part do it the night before it goes live on a Friday. I think I just like sort of testing myself and doing things like that, and approaching it in a different way, thinking, well, how can I do a weekly webcomic? So it's like a 4-panel strip, that appears on Instagram. You just swipe across, and then it then became apparent that I was maybe going to lose the New York one, but that was it. I spoke to Tony, and Wacko Man was done for the foreseeable future, and I thought, well. So again, my brain is like, well, rethinking things. How do I don't go, okay, I've lost that. I go, well, how do I get that back? But I can't get that back in terms of print. No one's printing any comics anymore. There's no publishers to approach. There's no magazines to look at because no one's going into shops. So I, at the start of this year, you can see him poking his head out. I did a Magnum PI comic.
Yeah.
It was a little mini comic as I did as a bit of a warm up for the new year, and I just had this idea that I wanted to do, and I did this little mini comic, and then I thought, well, this ended up being my most successful comic I'd ever done.
Wow!
A lot of Magnum PI fans.
It was insane. So I did an article about it on Bleeding Cool, and it sold out overnight. I had to up the. I only do small numbers, when I do self-publishing. I don't do like hundreds of copies. But I had to like triple the amount I was doing. Anyway, I just thought, well, that comic people seem to like, so I'll use Ko-fi and I'll say I'm doing a new Magnum comic. It's going to be a monthly one, but I can only do it if I can get the support. I'm doing the other little webcomic. That's for free. If people like it and they want to support me, then it's great. But I can only make this Magnum comic. So I was tempting the people who I knew enjoyed it. And so I put like a goal of that would cover the creation of two of them, and then did another. And so I tapped into. I thought, right, I'll do another article on Bleeding Cool. Reach out to those people again, and I've had some really cool support. So I'm 60% funded on the 2 comics, so the first one starts tomorrow, and so that I was doing that. At first, I wasn't going to do it. I thought I'm not going to do anything until. But I thought, well, are people going to support something that I'm not willing to do? Because some people will go, well, I've given you money, then you're not doing it. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm doing that. So yeah, I'm not doing any more. I'm just doing what I've lost, but in different ways.
Right, you've just like refocused it essentially.
Yeah, so it's the same amount of work, but I couldn't. I thought, well, I'm used to doing this amount of output, so just keep that going if I can. And it is hard, you've got the girls at home and wife. We're all trying to work, and we're all trying to not fall out all the time, And I've noticed, Tom, that you've been drinking throughout. I've not touched any alcohol for the whole of the lockdown.
That's unbelievable. Amazing.
At first it was like, because I was thinking, well, we haven't got money to be buying alcohol. We need to spend money on other things. And now I really need a glass of wine.
I'm allowed 1 beer, that says it. That was my one.
But yeah, sorry to dominate there. I feel like I'm been talking too much.
No, it's
absolutely.
always fascinating stuff, Mark.
I will be re-listening to this again, probably in a few days, to be starting to steal ideas from you anyway. So it's the only reason I do these, really, is just to be like, okay, so if I steal that idea,
Yeah, that's all we all do. We're all just stealing ideas.
Yes, great artists steal. That's what they say.
I've just ordered your T-shirt, so hope that's one you've got.
Fantastic. I just need 4 more. You're a good man, Charlie Brown, as they say.
Yeah, awesome. No, I thank you guys so much for coming onto this. I had a look, and I'd done 4 issues of this before, and I had a look at when I last done one, and it was last March. So I couldn't believe it had been a whole year that I had like kept putting it off and off and off. So I was like, I'd done that live stream for the charity during the beginning of the week, and I was like, okay, I really enjoyed it. Let's do it again. Let's get them going. So thanks so much for doing it at such short notice as well, and coming on. But before we go, you might as well just quickly tell everyone where to find you on YouTube, especially, but everywhere else as well, and what you've got coming out, I guess, if you've got anything coming out. So yeah, Tom, go first.
So the YouTube stuff is at captainfishbeard.co.uk. All my other stuff is at tomspark.com, and the books and comics are for sale at alphafresh.co.uk. That's pretty much all my lot. There will be another issue of Spring Hill Jack coming out at some point, but it looks like end of the summer at the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm just, you can just find me on YouTube as Mark Makes Comics, Mark with a C, M-A-R-C, and then my website, which is markmakescomics.co.uk, which leads to my Etsy shop, and then I'm Mark Makes Comics on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and I always say MySpace. No, I'm not on MySpace, but I think that's funny. And that's pretty much where I am. I'm trying to just fly the flag for comics as much as I can. And thanks to you, Aaron, for doing good things as well.
Yeah, the Spark is a really, really good thing for the comics world.
I think it's got real potential to sort of really to blast off. Let's say blast off. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It really has. It's you did the right thing right from the start. You know, you had Nick doing the cover and things like that. You know, especially for creators, things like that kind of your attention kind of pricks up. You know, like, oh, you know, Nick Brokenshire's doing the cover. You know, and you know, we've kind of talked about this behind the scenes, Aaron, about good and bad design and stuff like that. And you know when things look good and when you think, this is something that you wanted to be involved in. That's why I kept harassing you anyway.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I can't wait for everyone to see the strip and the page as a whole.
The whole issue looks really cool. I think, you know, what I've seen, like the cover. When's it out?
It should be coming out next sometime this month.
Right,
Depends
okay.
on how quick I can get the last bits done, ready for the printers. So.
And how are the subscriptions going? Are they good?
They trickle in. Yeah, it could be better, but it's trickling in. So I just need to. Until the lockdown, I really hadn't had time to really sit down and focus on how do I really market everything. And I think I said to, I don't know if it's Tom, but I've said it to a few people recently. Like this past month, I've been really sitting down and really thinking about how to move forward.
Yeah.
So hopefully the next few months we'll start seeing something come out of all these ideas that I've been pushing around. So we'll see how it goes. But we've got enough people subscribed for me to buy a few trees, because with every subscription I plant a tree. So make sure you subscribe. Yeah. Brilliant. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it, and good luck with the channels. Good luck hitting 1,000, Mark. I'm pretty sure that won't be too far away. And we'll aim for 200, Tom. Yeah, we'll get.
That'll be great.
Yeah. Do it, Tom. I'm with you, Tom. I'm with you.
Thank you very much for your support, guys. Lovely chatting to you both.
You too. Take care.
Guys. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye.